Technical foul. Yeah. Yo, guys, what is up? Welcome to another episode of Teed Up. I'm David.
I'm Justin.
As always, we appreciate the hell out of you guys for tuning in. I'm sorry for being so crazy, but I'm very excited because we finally got NBA basketball back.
Yes, we do.
Finally, Justin, it's back.
Finally.
We can
After
turn on the
what?
TV after 3 months, 4 months.
About 4 months now?
About 4 months. And we finally have it. Sure, it's just scrimmages, but who cares? Because it's NBA basketball.
Oh, yeah. Real NBA basketball. Not like scrimmages it is scrimmages, but not like just pickup games, not any of that crap. It's real team against team. You got real players out there trying, like, actually playing 110%. It's
Exactly.
legit.
Exactly. And I'm so hyped. And I obviously we've been jonesing for NBA basketball for, like you said, 4 months.
Oh, yeah.
And I think, just the fact that we didn't have it for so long, and now they're like, hey, here's 5 games a day. It's just
perfect.
Adam Silver, thank you so much.
League Pass comes in handy.
League Pass does come in handy. It's worth the $10 a month, I'm telling you.
Oh, right now it is, for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, the whole thing with this, is the whole concern with the safety. But you don't have to worry about that. Well, you do have to worry about it. But guess what? Guess how many players tested positive thus far for COVID-19?
I'm going to say 0.
I'm going to say 0 zip zilch, Justin.
Mm-hmm.
No players have tested positive. So this is very safe. It's a very safe procedure. And it's just been going phenomenal.
I don't know. Did Rashawn Holmes end up – I know he's self-quarantined, but did he ever test during that? I mean, maybe he did test, but I don't know about that. I don't know, I don't think they do tests when you're quarantining yourself, so I'm not sure about that. But other than that, I know the rest of the players did test negative.
Yeah, so a lot of players tested negative. So we can continue watching. And I'll be honest with you. I was very pessimistic. I didn't think that this bubble was going to work. I don't know about you, Justin, but I did not think that this bubble was going to work out.
I thought it would work. I was always a big fan of the bubble. I remember from the beginning, I said we need one neutral location, preferably Disney, I mentioned previously. I thought Vegas wouldn't work. And this was kind of my projected plan for the NBA. And so far, it's worked out well. I'm not sure how it will continue, but right now I love it, and it's worked out well.
Absolutely. And, props to all the players for doing their part and staying safe. What do you think about this? I wanted to get your thoughts about this, this anonymous hotline, rather, like about,
the snitch line?
The snitch line, if you want to call it that.
I mean, it's the right thing to do. I mean, nobody's going to call it. They're not going to kind of call each other out. I think it's a good anonymous way to do it because the player safety is most important here. And I think if somebody's not following the rules, they need to be told because I don't want the NBA season being ruined. So just follow the rules.
Absolutely.
It's necessary. Like, you can't not have them wearing masks. You can't not have all that stuff. They just follow the rules. It's simple. I think the players are finally getting used to it. Just like everyone else finally got used to kind of staying more inside, wearing the mask. You just get used to it after time, so it just becomes more normal. And I think that's happening for the players. So hopefully it's not having to be used a lot. But if it is, it's a smart thing to have set up because it's necessary. Because you never know when a player may forget or just something decides not to wear it.
Mm-hmm. I wish we had an anonymous hotline for people going to the grocery store or the mall or something. Just put it on. If Rip Hamilton can win an NBA championship wearing a mask, you can wear one to the grocery store. Exactly.
Very true.
We're gonna break down. We have. By the way, we have actual stuff to talk about too.
Real topics.
No more what if scenarios. No more what's gonna happen if this blah blah blah. No, we got actual games to break down. We got actual players to talk about, to talk negatively about, to talk positively about. Let's get into these scrimmages. So, Justin, the first one was on Wednesday the 22nd, and that was the Orlando Magic playing the LA Clippers. The Clippers won that 99-90. Lou Williams, you got the Kawhi shirt on. I don't know why you would wear that as a Sixer fan.
I love Kawhi.
Remember what Kawhi did to us?
Yeah, who cares? I was lucky. I mean, you can't hate Kawhi. The guy, he plays basketball the right way. Two-way player, not selfish, gets everyone involved, plays defense, grabs boards, scores. He's the true team player.
I never said I hated Kawhi. I just said I would not support the man because of what he did.
I don't think you have much room to talk. You got the LeBron jerseys you wear, so I don't think you can necessarily
Mr. Fine Wine?
criticize. I don't think you can criticize me for wearing one when
But
you
LeBron
have a
never
bunch
hit
of
a buzz.
LeBron.
LeBron never hit a buzzer beater against the Sixers and broke my heart.
It's fair. I mean,
So
he's the best player in the NBA, though, so
yeah.
you got to support.
Well, the man on your shirt, he did, dropped 9 points in 19 minutes, 3 for 8 from the field, shot
He didn't play much.
little less than 38% from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, which was pretty good. The leading scorer of that game was Lou Will, 22 points in 16 minutes. 7 for 13 from the field, did a pretty good job. This is the first time seeing the Clippers back. They're your pick to go to the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What are your thoughts on this Clippers team now that you've actually seen them in action for the first
That made
time?
me watching that game made me very excited for the Clippers because that's the best I've seen Paul George play in years. I mean, he was lights out that game, and if they get that Paul George, the rest of the NBA should be scared because he was dominant that game. I know it's only a scrimmage game, so I don't look at results in scrimmages. I look at how a player performs in scrimmages because I think results are dumb in scrimmages because nobody's really trying to win a basketball game like you're playing, but like the results don't matter. It's all about team building and having success out on the court for individuals. Because like at the end of these games, I don't know if you watched the main game. I want to point out is the Sixers Grizzlies. Yeah, game was close, but that's because the Grizzlies played their starters the whole fourth quarter. Meanwhile, the Sixers were playing their third string lineup out there the whole time. So like, yeah, the game was close, but the Sixers had a 15-point lead the whole entire game, more than 15 points for most of the game. So like the results, in my opinion, don't matter so much. It's just what you see out of the players, more of a eye test than a actual results test. So I think the eye test on they won the game, so the result ended up being good. But the eye test on them looked really well because you had Lou Will playing well, and you had the best Paul George I've seen in a long time. So I was really impressed.
Man, and I should have brought out my Fresno State Paul George jersey because Paul George is was one of my favorite players. I promise I'll wear that next episode. But the whole thing, Paul George did have a good game. 18 points in 19 minutes, 6 for 13 from the field. Had a great game. And obviously, this is great to see because a lot of people say, "Oh, he's overrated," and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
Because
he hasn't performed well recently. So yes,
he hasn't been the Paul George that we have seen. He's not the Indiana Paul George. You know what I mean?
That scrimmage game he started to look like Indiana Paul George though.
Yeah. And
because in my opinion, he was fine. This layoff has given him time to rest and finally become healthy. I think he hasn't been healthy in a long time, and that's why this layoff has helped the Clippers out a lot. And I think it's given them time to gel. So I think the results of these games will end up leading to wins. Not that truly matters, but I think you'll see a lot of success on the court for the Clippers because of this layoff.
Now, what do you think about the Magic? Their top scorer was Michael Carter-Williams, who dropped 16 points in 18 minutes, 6 for 11 from the field. What are your thoughts on, this Magic team after seeing them back for the first time in 4 months?
Again, they looked okay. I mean, it's a scrimmage, so it's tough to judge too much into it. The players played well. I think the Magic are a solid team, but again, they're not beating any of the top teams in the East. They're not beating anybody like that. They could make a series maybe because you get Vukovic, Aaron Gordon, a couple other guys there, but they're not really. They may win a game or two at most, but they're not forcing anyone to go 7 games or anything like that. So I mean, it was nice to see them back in action. You had some solid play there, but not that much out of them. I'm not really overly impressed with them.
Yeah, I'm not impressed with Michael Carter-Williams' skills at answering DMs or emails.
Yeah, a little bad at that.
Shots fired, maybe. Never mind. But he did have a good game, obviously. But yeah, looking at the, as I watched this Magic team, I really didn't. I wasn't impressed. I don't think Vucevic, met my needs or met my expectations. Like you said, I don't think this Magic team is going to go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So moving on to the next game, we have the Pelicans and the Nets. Now the Nets got obliterated, and rightfully so, because they're without Kyrie, without KD, without DeAndre
They're
Jordan.
without the whole team, basically.
Their best player is Karis LeVert, and the second best player is probably Jared Allen, and third is probably Jamal Crawford, who's 41 years old.
Yep.
So I don't really give a crap about how the Nets did, because I knew that they were going to do absolutely terrible. They're probably going to go 0 for 8 in the 8 games that you have
100%.
to get to the playoffs. But obviously, I did want to see the Pelicans, and I was
They were without
very,
Zion.
and I was very impressed from Mr. Brandon Ingram. I don't know about you.
See, I would be impressed if they weren't playing the Brooklyn Nets. That takes all the value out of that game. They're playing a bunch of scrubs, in my opinion, in that game. So while it's a scrimmage, it's nice to see the players out there, but again, it's the Brooklyn Nets. It's the worst team in the bubble. They're just absolutely no. I think that roster in the Brooklyn Nets that they're sending to the bubble is probably the worst roster in the NBA. So again, yes, they won by 31, but at the same time, who really cares? It was the Brooklyn Nets, I want to see them play real competition. I get that it's a scrimmage, but I want to see them at least be playing a team that has NBA caliber players on it, true NBA caliber players. Even at least the Orlando Magic have an Aaron Gordon, Nikola Vukovic, even a Fultz, Fournier, any of those guys. Those guys are all better than anyone on the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, I want to see a little more out of them. I can't judge too much into that game, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, but at the same time, the Pelicans are without, Zion, for example, and their key guy is Drew Holiday, which isn't that much of a, what's the word? I'm like it's not that much of a dominant team, you know what I mean? So I Corona, so I was impressed, especially with Brandon Ingram's performance. 3 for 5 from 3, 60, shot 60%. That's it doesn't matter if it's against the 10-72 Sixers or if it's against the 73-9 Warriors. 3 for 5 from 3 is still very impressive.
I think it's impressive that he did it, but again, there's some weight in who they're playing. They're playing the Brooklyn Nets here. I wouldn't get too excited over anything. I think Pelicans fans are just thinking, "Oh man, we're definitely winning this 8th seed, and we're going to give LeBron a run for his money." And I just want them to slow down a little bit there, because I want to see them play a real team, not the worst team in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see where you're coming from that. But one thing I did want to mention is my guy, Jahlil Okafor. I was very impressed when he got significant minutes. Did pretty well. And
he got himself back in shape. The problem is he is built for 1990 NBA's action, not today's game. He just doesn't fit. He's got to transition his game more. He's just not right for today's game. And I feel bad for him because he's a talented player for what he does, but what he does is just not needed in today's NBA.
Yeah, but I think, I think the roof for him, the limit for a guy like Jahlil Okafor is a solid backup center, which sucks because, coming out of Duke, coming off that national championship when he was drafted, the expectations were high. But then that whole thing when he was on the Sixers with Joel Embiid, he was a little bit jealous. And then you had his altercations with the Boston fans. You had him speeding down the Ben Franklin Bridge in Philly, going 107 miles an hour. So there was that all in there. But the fact that now he's getting significant minutes and he's getting, he's performing and he's executing pretty well is good to see.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's nice to see him have success at least.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. So the next game we're going to get into the Wizards and the Nuggets. Now, obviously, the Wizards, Justin, as you know, they're without John Wall, without Bradley Beal. It's going to be a tough bubble experience for the Wizards, and you saw that in the first
They're right
game.
there with the Nets.
Yeah, pretty much.
In terms of team talent, it's right at the bottom.
Yeah, if the conference finals are the Nets and the Wizards, I probably won't even watch it. That's not true. Probably will watch it. But
it won't happen. No way.
If it does, I will shave my head. Deal?
Sure.
Deal. I will shave. Justin will shave his head too. If the Nets and the Wizards go to the conference finals,
I don't think that's actually. It is possible. I guess they could be 7 and 8 seed. Nets could get the 7 and Magic fall out. It's possible. There's no way it happens though. So yeah.
But we had this new lineup with Denver. This is what you wanted to talk about, Justin. We were talking off air about
Yep.
this weird lineup. I mean, you had Nikola Jokic at the point, Jeremy
Mhm.
Grant at the 2, Bull at the 3, Millsap at the 4, and then Mason Plumlee at the 5. What are your thoughts on this crazy lineup?
It it's just stupid. It doesn't work. I mean, if you're up, let's say you're a team that's up 10 points with 2 minutes left, and you want to kind of shut someone down, like you're playing like a team like the Sixers who don't have a lot of great shooters, and you shut someone down and play like a zone defense inside, and you're just trying to maintain a lead. Sure, I like it, but as a like starting lineup in a game, this is just idiotic. I mean, you have no true point guard that can bring up the ball. You have no real perimeter threats that can shoot. I mean, Bol shot 2 for 8 from the field. Paul Millsap's a half decent shooter, not really anything special. Grant isn't really much of a shooter. Jokic can kind of like they just don't have the shooters. They're too slow. The transition offense is non-existent. They have nothing there. Transition defense is even worse because they have nobody to get back on defense. It just really doesn't work, and it seems really stupid. I really don't understand. I mean, we saw the Sixers tried to play a little tall ball lineup there, not quite as tall as the Nuggets, but they tried to go with Horford, Embiid, Ben, Toby, and Jay Rich. Not nearly as big, but they tried it, and it did not work playing all those big men up top there with Embiid, Simmons, and Horford. It didn't work, those three big guys. I don't see why adding a fourth one in there would make any difference. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I don't like it at all, basically.
Yeah, and if you looked at their shooting percentages, I mean, they're really not that good.
Mm-hmm.
From 3, Bull shot 2 for 8,
Mm-hmm.
25%. Jeremy Grant shot
Very good.
33%, which isn't the worst in the world, but it's not the best either. Jokic only attempted 2 threes. The only one that
Mm-hmm.
really impressed me was Troy Daniels, who came off the bench. He had 22 points,
Mm-hmm.
shot 7 for 15, which is 47%. Which is it's just I think this lineup's inconsistent. Uh,
I agree with that.
I it's going to be very inconsistent, and when you have to play a quick team with a really good backcourt, like for example, the Blazers. Let's just throw them out there.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a quick guy like Damian Lillard and a quick guy like CJ McCollum coming out there, it's not going to work.
How about these two realistic first-round matchups for him? The Houston Rockets and Oklahoma City Thunder with James Harden and Russ Westbrook, or CP3 and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Those two teams would dominate them because they'd be run, especially the Rockets. I mean, James Harden and Russell Westbrook love to get in transition. There is no way that team can get back in transition to stop them. I mean, Russell Westbrook would be down the court scoring the layup before any of the Nuggets players even got to half court. Like, that just is so dumb. Like, I get it. If you're trying to play a zone late in the game and you're focusing on defense and you're playing a team like the Sixers, maybe you try it and maybe it has some success. But like realistically, I don't think this would work at any times.
Yeah, and as much crap as I give the Houston Rockets, they would absolutely destroy the Denver Nuggets. I mean, you have Russell Westbrook, who is, I would probably say, the fastest player in the NBA. On a fast break, you cannot
With the
stop
ball
Russell
in
Westbrook.
transition, he's
Yeah,
top
exactly,
top two for sure, top
exactly.
three.
For me, is the first. And as much crap as I give him, I got to give credit where credit's due. His speed is phenomenal, and it has been for pretty much his entire career.
Yeah, his whole career.
And then you have James Harden, who's going to get away with traveling and stuff like that, which we will get into later because we're going to break down the Rockets. But you have him with his quick feet and stuff like that. For him to be guarded by Jeremy Grant or Paul Millsap, it's just not going to work because their perimeter defense is lacking. So this
Definitely.
lineup is dumb. I don't know if they're experimenting. I know Brett Brown is going to experiment with the lineups a bit when we get to these 8 games before the playoffs. He's going to see if Shake Milton should start at point guard and put Ben Simmons as a point forward, or what's going to happen with that. So, but for this Denver team, I 100% agree with you. I do not think that this is going to work at all. I think it's just terrible.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's going to be super inconsistent. I mean, let's be honest here.
It just wouldn't work.
Finally, this game right here, last game that we're going to break down for Wednesday is Miami versus Sacramento. Miami won by 16. Miami is one of the teams to be projected to come out of the East. watched Jimmy Butler in action for the first time. He had 11 minutes. So, like you said, it's not really a lot to judge right now, but, 9 points, 2 for 4 from the field. Duncan Robinson was
He played really well.
Duncan Robinson had a pretty good game. It's not a household name, obviously, but if he keeps performing like this, going into these 8
Tyler
games.
Herro.
Tyler
Great
Herro.
shooters off the bench.
Tyler Herro. And honestly, Goran Dragic. I feel like Goran Dragic doesn't get enough credit for what he does in Miami.
Definitely. Now, I have a bit of a hot take here, but honestly, if the Heat matched up against the Bucks, I think they'd have enough to take them down in a series. I think they'd match up well against them. I think Bam Adebayo is a good enough defender that you can kind of throw him at Giannis and mess him up a little bit. And you get Jimmy Butler on those guards and George Hill and what's his name, Dante DiVincenzo from Nova, who's a good player for them. Get him on Chris Middleton too. I think they match up well with them, and I think their shooting can compete because the Bucks have a lot of 3-point shooting around Giannis, and I think the Heat are one of the few teams that can kind of combat that. I'm not saying they'd win, but I think they can definitely give them a run for their money. I really like the Miami Heat, and I think they'd be a tough matchup for the Sixers too, because I think Jimmy Butler, a revenge game against the Sixers, he'll certainly want to win that. I think the Heat create a lot of kind of bad matchups for teams in the first 2 rounds here, because I think if they play, they're projected to play, assuming the Pacers fall out here, I think Sixers would finish 4-5. Winner of that game series would play the Bucks, and I could honestly see the Heat making an Eastern Conference Finals run there.
I'm going to disagree only because of just if you break down the Bucks lineup versus Miami's lineup, I think Milwaukee takes the cake. Bledsoe versus Dragic. I think Eric Bledsoe is better than Goran Dragic. I think he's a better defender. I think he's a better playmaker. I think that as much as I love Goran Dragic, I think he's a great player. I think he's athletic. I think he's can shoot well. I gotta give Eric Bledsoe the edge. Then you have Chris Middleton versus Tyler Herro. Well, Tyler Herro's experience, he's never been to an NBA playoff game before. As much as he is amazing, great shooter, very fast, just a very good player. I think he's going to be one of the. I think he's a future all-star. Chris Middleton has that veteran experience, and he's got that 3-and-D, and I got to give him the edge. Obviously, Giannis versus Jimmy Butler. There's no debate there that Giannis is better.
Well, I'm a little confused. I mean, you're comparing some players that aren't really going to be playing. I think Jimmy Butler is more of a shooting guard, small forward, not a power forward, and Kendrick Nunn's the starting point guard for the Heat, not Goran Dragic. So I think Kendrick Nunn can compete there. Bam would be the guy playing the 4 there, so I think he'd be matched up on Giannis. I think they can match up well against them, so I disagree with that.
Right, but yeah, but
and they got Iguodala off the bench. Miles Leonard's a big guy. Derek Jones Jr. He's a solid guy off the bench too. They got options. Iguodala, Jay Crowder. They have players there that have kind of depth that you don't really think about right away, and I think they could cause some trouble just because they have Eric Spoelstra, who's a very veteran coach here. He knows what he's doing, and they got some veterans here that you kind of forgot about. They traded for Crowder and Iguodala there, so those are 2 key guys that know what they're doing.
Yeah, but they're not like the X factor. Like oh my God, they got Jay Crowder, who's washed up. He hasn't been good since he played for Boston.
They could be X factors through this series. You can get them if they can get back to their ways. I mean, Iguodala is still a valuable key piece. We saw that when he was with the Warriors there, and he's well rested for sure. And Jay Crowder, you got him. He's good enough that he can provide a spark off the bench if needed. He's a 3-and-D type player, and I think he could help.
But you are forgetting about the Greek Freak and how amazing
the guy
he is.
Who's choked every single playoffs. Yeah,
this is a whole different experience.
Really? Because I thought they were the first seed last year too.
But this is a whole different playoffs. We've never been inside of a bubble. We've never had these 8 games that determine how you're going to be seeded. We've never had this type of experience.
Really? So then why when I say that about LeBron James, you say it's okay?
Because that's LeBron.
When I bring up that argument, exactly. That's what I'm saying. You say it's not good because LeBron. You're bringing up LeBron's history. You say LeBron's history says he'll make the finals. So you're betting on that. When I say bring up Giannis's history, it doesn't matter. Giannis's history doesn't matter, but LeBron's does. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense.
But yeah, LeBron's has more longevity than Giannis. Giannis has only been good for
But
4 years.
if you're saying Giannis's history shouldn't matter because they're in a bubble, then why should LeBron's history matter if it's a different if they're in a bubble? That doesn't make. You see where I'm coming from? I just don't understand that.
Nah, I don't see where you're coming from at all.
You're comparing two guys, and you're saying Giannis's history doesn't matter at all because they're in a bubble, but then LeBron's history does matter even though they're in a bubble. That doesn't make sense. Every
It makes
player is the
it
same.
makes perfect sense.
Has
Because
LeBron played in a bubble? Has LeBron
because we're
played in a
talking
bubble
about
before?
but we're talking about LeBron. I mean, LeBron's going to find a way. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Has
With
LeBron
James.
played in a bubble before?
No, but he's played in overly hot arenas where the AC is broken. He's played.
Yeah, that he had to come out of the game because he was cramping.
Yeah, well,
The only player on the court cramping.
You ever try to play with cramps? Hurts.
He was the only one cramping.
So they're in Texas without air conditioning. You're going to cramp up. And maybe other players
I just don't see how you can make an argument that Giannis won't choke because he's in a bubble, but then say for the opposite, you're not treating them equally here. It just doesn't make sense in my opinion.
No, I think LeBron, given his longevity and is willing to adapt to different situations, different teams that he's had, different injuries that he's had, things like that he'll be fine to adapt to this bubble. And I'm saying with Giannis, he's got this whole new thing. He's got pretty much a fresh, clean slate with this bubble. So I think that the outcome for Giannis and his Milwaukee Bucks and that basketball club could be they could make a run. They could make a run for the finals.
Obviously, but the logic there just doesn't make sense. You're comparing. I'm giving you two players, and they're in the same situations, brand new, never experienced this before. But you're saying so Giannis is definitely going to make it and will never choke, even though his history says he will choke. And LeBron, you're saying the opposite about it. You're saying history doesn't matter for Giannis, but then when you go to LeBron James, his history actually matters because his history looks good.
I never said Giannis will definitely make it, but I think Giannis can give the East a run for their money. They are the first seed, and they were on pace to win 70 games after all.
I can see them not choking, but I don't agree with your logic there. That's all.
All right, well, we're gonna move on to the next day of scrimmages. So that was Wednesday, July 22nd. So now we're gonna be on Thursday, July 23rd. You get to see Giannis in action for the first time. He played 21 minutes, dropped 23 points against the San Antonio Spurs.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did.
So, like you said, we just talked about this bubble and how it could differentiate how players play. But Giannis looked like Giannis. Chris Middleton looked like Chris Middleton.
Yeah, they played well, but again, it was against the San Antonio Spurs. No real contender there. I mean, the Spurs aren't making the playoffs. They're one of those bubble teams that got thrown in just so the Pelicans could make it. So I mean, we'll see what happens. It's a scrimmage game against the Spurs. Good for the Bucks. It was a nice showing, but again, it's only a scrimmage game. We'll see.
I do want to talk about this Dallas Mavericks and Los Angeles Lakers game at the end. I do want to break down the Blazers and the Pacers. What the hell happened to Victor Oladipo? I mean, he looked terrible.
He's looked that way the whole year. He is not right.
Whatever
happened with his I know he looked really bad last game, but he just hasn't looked – he's looked bad this whole time. He hasn't looked that bad, but he has looked bad this whole time. I mean, the Pacers played better with him off the court than they do with him on the court. He just is not that same player. And it's disappointing because he was a very talented player, and he just does not look the same.
I mean, 8 points out of 19 minutes. You drop 8 points in 19 minutes, and you're the best player on your team? Yeah, you go 3 for 10 from the field?
The Pacers are absolutely done. They have nothing.
Oh, my God. And then Sabonis goes down?
Sabonis is out. He's out for the tournament. He's done. So they're out. They're done.
I mean,
they're going to fall to the 6th seed.
I mean, who's going to save the Pacers? T.J. McConnell?
No, the Pacers are screwed.
Shout out to T.J. McConnell, by the way. And Melo didn't look that good either with Portland. He played 20 minutes, dropped 8 points, and he went 3 for 9.
No,
so
Melo's not that key of a player though. He's going to be 5th option probably. I mean, you got CJ, Dame, Hassan and Nurkic are better than him. I think he's kind of like a fifth option for them. He's not much.
All
He's
right,
just a floor spacer.
mhm. The only people that I were really impressed of, and I hate to say it because I love Damian Lillard, but he only dropped 4 points, and
Hmm.
he went 1 for 5. CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic.
Hmm.
Yusuf Nurkic had a
Nurkic
solid
is going
game.
to be an X factor. I really like him, and I think he will be big for them.
Yeah, having Nurkic back is absolutely phenomenal for this Portland team. You know, he dropped 8 rebounds. Shot 6 for 10 from the field. CJ McCollum, 11 points, 5 for 11. Also had, he's just, like I said, the only players that really impressed me were Yusuf Nurkic, and I agree. I think Yusuf Nurkic is going to be an X factor. I don't think he gets talked about enough
Hmm.
in Portland. I mean, maybe in Portland he does, but across the country, I don't think he gets talked about that much.
Agreed.
Um, so yeah, and then you had the Suns and the Jazz, and the Suns actually won that game, which I'm actually pretty surprised about. You know,
I'm not. I don't think the Jazz. I think the Jazz will be terrible without Bogdanovich and without Ingles. That team is really nothing. You'll be surprised. Conley is a good player, but he's hasn't contributed much. Mitchell's good. Gobert's good. But those two guys were very key players to that Jazz team. Without them, they're going to struggle. So I
right?
really wasn't surprised. I've actually projected them. I think they'll go maybe 3-5 at best
Mm-hmm.
in this 8-game series here, or 8-game season, or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm. One thing I did want to get your thought on is, obviously Rudy Gobert was had created this domino effect for canceling the season,
Hmm.
creating this bubble for safety. Then Donovan Mitchell tested positive. Do you think that's still going to affect this Jazz team? Like, is there still bad blood, or do you think it's not that big of an issue?
I don't think it's that big of an issue because as we've seen what played out, I think at the time it was a big issue, but we've seen how it's played out. If it wasn't Gobert, somebody else would have passed it on, and the league would have been shut down. So I think people realize that now. I think Mitchell is a little immature, so it could bother him a little bit. But realistically, I think he's kind of taken a seat back, kind of just seen what's happened throughout the league and realized it would have shut down. I would hope at least he's realized it would have shut down either way. And I think you can get past it, but I'm just worried he's a little immature and won't get past it.
Mm-hmm.
And it could cause a little rift there. And again, another reason why the Jazz could struggle here, that rift that could be between Gobert and Mitchell. I would like to think a guy like that at whatever, 25 years old, whatever his age is there, I know he's mid-20s, could get past this, but seems a little immature in my opinion from at least watching him, how he acts on and off the court. So
Yeah,
we'll see.
I don't think it's that big of a deal, like you said. I really think that they are grown men, and they probably talked and they said, look, even if we have differences and even if we did upset each other, we're going to put these aside because we have a job to do. We've got a
Mm-hmm.
title to win.
Exactly.
So I think come these 8 games, come the tournament, I think the Jazz can make some noise. I really think they can. Maybe maybe not as much noise as I would have projected if they had Bogdanovich and Joe Ingles, but they'll still make noise. I think it'll probably be a second round exit.
Nah, there's no way they even win in the first round without Bogdanovich and Ingles. No, not a chance, because those guys are key and valuable, and that Jazz team is going to be right in the middle. You're telling me you think they're going to beat an OKC team who's had their number, a Houston
Possibly,
Rockets team who's beaten them? There's no way
possibly.
with Ingles and Bogdanovich. Absolutely. I mean, you're losing 32 points right there combined. You're losing a 20-point and 12-point scorer. You're losing the floor spacing. You're losing so much by not having them out there that it just won't be able to be replicated. That success just will not be there anymore. So I feel bad for them because they were a good team and they were a solid team and they did have a chance to make a first round upset and possibly even make a second round upset. But without those two guys, they're just screwed. They don't have a chance.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, the last game, probably the most anticipated for me personally, because Mr. Fine Wine played. That's his torn jersey right there. The Lakers versus the Mavs. Now, Justin, I don't want you to say, I don't want to even hear you say, oh, look, the Lakers lost, ha, 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 because you just said that the results don't matter. These are like preseason games.
I know they don't. They don't
Okay.
matter. Because I know you're going to be saying the exact same thing later on when we bring up another team you don't like. So I don't think the results matter, and that's fine. I mean, it's a preseason game against the Mavericks, a team that should have success on, and those teams the players did have success in the Lakers when they were playing. So it was good for the Lakers. You saw
Mhm.
Deion Waiters and J.R. Smith had success. And they were playing a low seeded or what are they, 7 or 8? I think they're 7th seed right now. So they're a lower team in the Western Conference there. So these players should be having success with them. It's not like they were playing the Clippers or the Nuggets or a top seeded Western Conference team or Eastern Conference team. So I mean they should have a little success there. So I was glad to see it. It was good for them.
I think um, one thing that really surprised me was Seth Curry.
Oh
50,
yeah, he went off.
8 for 8 from the field, 6 for 6 from three.
Which is huge because if for the Mavericks to truly make a run, they're going to need him because Jalen Brunson is out.
Mm-hmm.
So they need that secondary ball handler when Luka doesn't have the ball. They need
Mm-hmm.
somebody. They signed Trey Burke, but I think Seth Curry is the guy there.
Man, he looked like his brother out there. Look at Curry,
Oh,
man.
he did.
Such
He
an
did.
inspiration. Shout out to Flight.
He certainly did. Best
Uh,
YouTuber
yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't say best YouTuber.
behind us, of course.
Behind Teed Up with Justin and David, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And Boiled Up. Make sure you guys go check out Boiled Up. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I did want to plug Justin and Jake's podcast. Justin has
Yep.
another podcast with our good friend Jake Lavely.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Boiled Up. They go in depth about every sport. And baseball just came back. And the baseball is in
Yes,
the regular
baseball,
season.
Dropping an episode today.
Exactly.
It'll be good. We talked about baseball, basketball, got a little bit of everything in there. It's gonna be good now. Now that there's actual sports to talk about. It's saying just like this. They have real stuff to talk about. It's good.
Mm-hmm. And they got that whole, debate with this whole Washington football team situation. They got me breaking down the first impressions of MLB teams. So definitely check it out.
Yeah,
Put a link
good.
in the description. Definitely go check that out if you're a fan of every sport.
Yep.
Yeah. So moving on to the Lakers, LeBron played 15 minutes, dropped 12 points, 4 for 6, 3 rebounds, 5 assists. LeBron doing LeBron things in 15 minutes. Fine wine. Anthony Davis, 12 points, 5 for 7. Pretty solid game there from him. Quinn Cook actually shocked me a little bit. 13 points, 5 for 7. I thought Quinn Cook contributed tremendously. And this is the first time we've seen J.R. Smith since
It was. Since his signing.
for a while.
And Deion Waiters. It was the first Deion Waiters occurrence.
And Deion, yeah. So Justin, what were your thoughts on these new Laker guys?
They look good. I mean, the issue is not the offense. I mean, it's never been the offense. I think they have the offense. It's now, what did they lose defensively without Avery Bradley there? Can they guard the point guard spot? And you can't judge it off that game. I think you're going to need to judge it off of a team that has a true point guard that could give them problems, like a game against the Houston Rockets, the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that has true point guards, Portland Trailblazers, Grizzlies, teams that have true point guard. Like Luka's kind of like a unicorn, so it's kind of different. It's going to be tough to judge him. I mean, we saw Seth Curry, a point guard, drop 8 threes on him. He looked pretty good against them. So that does concern me about that. That's kind of the one concern I have about the Lakers, and it was pretty glaring there, in my opinion, at least. I was a little worried about that, but offensively they look solid. Defensively, there's a little bit to worry about, which I mean, I think everyone's been talking about. Or at least I've been kind of preaching.
It's concerning, but I think Frank Vogel will look at the film and he'll watch it and be like, okay, Seth Curry looked like his brother out there. Here's how we can fix this. You can practice this in practice. You can do A, B, and C. And I think that they can, and I think that they can practice this. I think LeBron, is pretty. LeCoach can do some stuff too. So I think they will be willing. The Lakers will adapt to this, and they will, solve their perimeter defense problem.
So. It's tough. Again, it's one scrimmage. It's tough. You can't judge anything off of it, but we'll see what happens. I think you need more to judge it, but the offense did look solid. I was impressed.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the next day, Friday, July 24th. I am very, very excited. I'm very excited for this. We're gonna talk about the Sixers.
Yes.
1,
Up
2, 3,
Sixers.
4, 5, Sixers. Sixers won. They were up by a lot. But the biggest thing in the entire, not just in Philly, but the entire thing was Ben Simmons hitting that three.
Yes, it was.
Ben Simmons hit that three, and he looks so much more confident out there. He looks so much more comfortable attempting those threes. I think he's doing. I think it's great. We saw some footage of him in practice, trying to work out his psychological tactics to try and just get more comfortable with shooting the threes, taking the threes. Just honestly, not even making the threes for Ben, but just watching him take them and attempting them is a step in the right direction. And I think it's a huge step for him. Just attempting those threes is very impressive, and I'm very happy that that has happened, Justin. Because before March, which was when the NBA season got suspended, Ben would never attempt a three. Defenders would always end up backing up, and he didn't look confident from the perimeter. But now we're seeing a whole different Ben Simmons. I get it's just one game, but let me have my moment. Let us have our moment, Justin.
Yeah, I agree. I think we saw this in the regular season or preseason already when he was shooting the threes against, he hit one against, I believe it was the Knicks and some Chinese league team, which was great. We saw him shoot already. We've seen it. This shouldn't be something we've seen. It shouldn't be something we get surprised about. What we should be surprised about is if he continues to do it. We've seen him do it in one game. Now let's see him continue to do it. I need to see more from him. I need to see him continue to shoot at least 2 to 3 a game when he's open there. And he shot the second one after missing the first one, and it went in. So hopefully we see more of it.
Mm-hmm. And one thing
for me, the biggest thing about that game wasn't actually Ben Simmons hitting that shot. It had nothing to do with that. It was nice to see. But the biggest thing with that was seeing the Sixers gel. I think it was the first time watching the Sixers I truly had fun since that 5-0 start that they had to start the season. That was the first time I've seen them actually having fun out on the court. We saw the bench celebrations that they were having when Ben hit the three and others. I think this team's really come together, kind of uniting as one, and they're really kind of, I don't know what's the word, they're kind of just gelling right. They're just clicking at the right time. I think this could lead to a very deep run by the 76ers because I think if they can get these guys hitting some threes like Thibault and Korkmaz and Shake Milton playing well, even Ben Simmons hitting a 3 or 2 a game from the outside corner when he's open there, it could lead to something special in Philly.
Absolutely, and their chemistry is phenomenal.
Went from 0 to 100 real quick.
Real quick, shout out to Drake. Hasn't been good since that song's come out, by the way.
Nope.
Hasn't dropped anything good, but that's a whole nother topic. Anyway, yeah, and I think we've been blessed with these Matisse Thybulle vlogs because it shows the Sixers and it shows how their chemistry is, and that's a big thing. It's just the chemistry that they've had. They all get along. They all seem to be getting along. They're all, they all seem happy to be playing with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and another thing that I really like out of the Sixers team is their depth. If you watched the game yesterday, their bench came through. Their bench really performed yesterday. Alec Burksborough was doing well. Glenn Robinson was doing well. Norvell Pell, Furkan Korkmaz was doing well. Norvell Pell really surprised me.
I like him. I think he reminds me a lot of a Nerlens Noel type player. Very good defensively, athletic rim blocker. Doesn't quite have an offensive game much other than a alley-oop or like a DeAndre Jordan almost. But he hit that corner 3. I was shocked. I
was shocked he took the 3.
Mm-hmm.
So shout out to the Sixers. Keep doing what you're doing. Let's get a championship on Broad Street, huh?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, I have one thing for you. What do you think about the report that Ben Simmons saw a sports psychiatrist to try and figure out his 3-point shooting issues? What do you think about that? Because I think personally, the shooting issue for him isn't anything fundamental like Boltz's issue was. I think for him, it's purely mental, maybe anxiety, maybe a little bit of anxiety or something. And now the open gym may actually help him.
Yeah. I briefly, said that when I went on that huge tantrum about Ben, but I think your mental health is very important in the NBA. It's very important. And, the whole thing with playing basketball is confidence. if you're not confident, you could have the skill set of LeBron James, but if you're not confident in yourself, you're not going to execute it on the floor. And Ben Simmons needed help with that because he wasn't confident shooting threes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's great. You ever seen the movie Thunderstruck?
Kevin Durant, great movie. Loved that when I was a kid.
Yeah. As a kid, I liked it. Now I watch it, and it's just
it's a terrible movie. But when I was 8 years old, I loved it.
Horrible movie. I can't even watch it after that Golden State stunt. But anyway, you watch that, and there was this kid who was terrible at basketball. Got Kevin Durant's skill set. Started getting more and more confident, and he ended up being the best high school player in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So I think the same thing happened with Ben Simmons. He saw somebody, said, I'm not very confident in shooting, but I want to get better at it, and I want to be able to shoot. I think it's phenomenal. And I do think the open gym, because as Philly sports fans, we are hard on our athletes. And I think Ben Simmons kind of gets – my buddy Sean, shout out to Sean, he brought this up. He said some players here in Philadelphia get like that Philadelphia treatment. Like, for example, Claude Giroux of the Flyers got it. Ryan Howard got it. Ben Simmons got it.
Chase Utley, I have to say, he was the first player I've ever, seen come back to Philly, and he didn't get booed. He truly got cheered. And, it's things like that you don't see often. I think, that's, true Philadelphia treatment. That's something rare. Because the majority of people say, oh, you just boo everybody. You hate everyone. You hate your own team.
You throw batteries at people. You throw snowballs at Santa Claus. It's not true. Not true.
Bad rep.
It's not true. But Ben Simmons gets that type of treatment. We love Ben Simmons to death, but we give him, we are very hard on him. But it's just because we care.
Yeah. So it's because we care about him. And I think the biggest thing for him is I think he's afraid of missing the shot. He doesn't want to let people down, so he tries to stick with what he knows he will have success doing, in his opinion, which I mean, in his mind seems right, but it's really not, because he's hurting the overall team. But he thinks him driving to the lane, because he has been so good at it his whole life, he thinks that's a more successful option than hitting a three that he's not that confident in shooting. So he always looks to drive instead rather than shooting it. Shooting it doesn't even pop into his head. And when he does, it just doesn't seem right. So I think him seeing this guy may be able to get him to realize, who cares if you shoot it and miss? So many people shoot. I mean, look at Joe Embiid. He shoots the three maybe 4 to 5 times a game. But, he doesn't make all of them. He only shoots probably, I think it's 34%, I want to say, he shoots from three. But he shoots it because it helps his game. It helps spread out the floor. It helps make everyone better around him. And I think that's something Ben will have to do as he grows as a player. And especially if he's playing the four, because him out there on the four, and if they can get people to actually guard him out there, he gets the ball in the corner, he's going to be driving right past you to the lane.
I think, yeah, I 100% agree. And I think one thing that happens with Ben Simmons is, I don't mean to bring up baseball again, but when there's a rookie, I'll bring up Rhys Hoskins of the Philadelphia Phillies, for example. His rookie year, he was hitting really well. People, Phillies fans like myself were saying, hey, this is going to be our next key guy, because this was before we got Bryce Harper.
Mm-hmm.
But then pitchers started to figure him out, and he started to struggle. After the All-Star break last year, he batted I think not even 200.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what would happen to Ben Simmons if he didn't have the three in his arsenal, was that players would start to figure him out, defenders would start to figure him out, because all he does is just bam, drive in the lane.
I feel like there's a little bit of false criticism that he gets, because people think he needs to shoot. You're forgetting about Giannis. Giannis is years older than Ben Simmons, and he still doesn't have a jump shot. He still doesn't shoot this year is his first year shooting it, and it's not very good at all. So when you really look at it, Ben Simmons still has time to grow. He's very young still. So to give up on a guy like him just because he won't shoot a three is dumb, because we've seen him make it. When I watch Giannis, I'm sorry, I don't see him making a lot of threes, because he still shoots them, but I don't see him making them. Even in practice, I see Ben shooting threes, and he'll go in the gym, and I can see him, watch him pull up from the corner and make 10 in a row. I've seen the videos of him doing it. I've never seen Giannis do that, even though Giannis shoots in the game. Honestly, in my opinion, I think Ben would beat Giannis in the three-point shooting contest because I think Ben's a better shooter than him. But I think for Ben, it's psychological. Giannis isn't a psychological issue. His issue is his mechanics don't work because his arms are so long and his wingspan. It's just hard for guys that big to shoot and that lengthy to shoot. They just don't work out well. So Ben's issue isn't that. Ben has the jump shot. We've seen it. He has he just uses to shoot it. And I think his issue is mental. And if he gets past that mental block, there's no stopping him. And I think he will be a league MVP.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you.
Maybe even as early as next year, if he is shooting that three consistently. I could see him putting up a solid 24, 12, and 9.
Mm-hmm. So very happy with the Sixers team. Not just as a Sixers fan, but just as a basketball fan. Just watching that, I was very impressed.
I mean, I saw NBA Twitter like going off on the Sixers. They were saying how, oh my God, they look like a wrecking ball. No team's going to stop them. I mean, they had a 30-point lead over the Grizzlies when the Grizzlies and Sixers were truly playing their starters in that game. Now, the Grizzlies continued to play their starters, and the Sixers were playing their third stringers. That's what made the game look close in the end. But when it was starters against starters, the Sixers had, I believe it was a 29-point lead in that game.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So very excited to see the Sixers, for what they do in the next couple of days, honestly. So moving on, we had the Thunder and the Celtics. Not much to talk about there. SGA had a good game. The Celtics looked like the Celtics. Justin, do you have anything else to add?
I was kind of surprised how well Steven Adams did because I've had a lot of people tell me, Celtics fans tell me that Daniel Tice is going to be able to shut down big men and play good defense on them, and he fits Brad Stevens' system. But then Steven Adams had like 17 points. Like, Steven Adams is not a big scorer, and he had 17 points. I believe it was almost at halftime or whatever. So he went off that game, and he's not a big scorer for a big man. So I kind of worried about that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm worried about their interior defense. If I was a Celtics fan, I'd be very worried because if you're seeing Steven Adams drop a ton of points on you, that's not a good sign.
And you gave Steven Adams a lot of crap in the past.
I do. I don't think he's a good offensive player, and the fact that he's dropping that many points on you is something to be worried about if I'm a Celtics fan.
Mm-hmm. So moving on, but I'm not really looking forward to this next game that we have to break down, the Rockets and the Raptors.
Very good game.
Whatever. Honestly, whatever.
They lost to the Raptors, but I mean, it was a good game because it was two elite basketball teams. It was two of the true teams that are of contender rosters playing each other. So seeing the starters out there for them, it was cool to see, and I really enjoyed it, actually. I thought it was a good game to watch just as a fan, and I was happy. I mean, look at it. James Harden dropped 24 and 10, and that team – you were saying LeBron did good dropping his. You said LeBron was great for his 12 and 5 he put up. James Harden's great for that. He put up 25 and 10. Westbrook only played 12 minutes, shot 9. He had 9 points, 9 rebounds. So that's not bad either.
You mean he dropped 15 points, right? Because 10 of them were free throws.
No, he actually
9 for 10 from the line.
So he got to the line. That's part of basketball. You know who gets to the line more than him? Giannis Antetokounmpo. Nobody criticizes him for getting to the line, but he gets to the line. He attempts more free throws per game than James Harden does. And you know who's right behind James Harden? Joel Embiid. I've never seen you once criticize Joel Embiid for getting all these calls.
I've noticed it from Embiid.
He gets all the calls, but you never criticize him about it. Actually, I love Embiid.
Embiid doesn't flop when he does it.
Yes, he does. Embiid does the little hezzy on the pump fake, gets their arm in between, and gets the foul call every time. Absolutely, Embiid gets that every time. But when James Harden does it, he's a flopper, and he doesn't get it. You're so biased about it. That's what I don't understand. Like, I get it if you want to criticize all floppers, or all guys that get to the free throw line too easily, but you just pick and choose who you like and dislike, which is the problem.
Right. Totally. Definitely.
I mean, here's the thing about the Rockets. The Rockets had that small ball lineup out there. It had a little bit of success out there. But I got to point something out because Daniel House played really well that game, and he's a guy not many people know about. He played very well. Entering last season, he played 51 games, shot 43% from 3, attempted 5 threes per game, and had a 64.7 true shooting percentage, which was on it, which this year, if he played this year and shot 64.7% true shooting percentage, that would have been top 10 in basketball. Top 10 in basketball, which is very good. And he had a shoulder injury that's been bugging him throughout the majority of the season. And he's finally got the rest that he's been asking for, basically, because he hasn't gotten it with the need for him playing. And he looked pretty bad out there. He looked like he was struggling, and he played very well. So I think if you piece that, you have him, Eric Gordon, Robert Covington, PJ Tucker, Russell Westbrook, and James Harden in isolation out there, getting out in transition and running, Austin Rivers. You got all these guys. I think they could cause a havoc on teams. I think their playing style could make teams struggle.
The only thing I would have to say to that is I still think that they need a center. Come playoff time, I think they're going to struggle without a true center.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, look at Golden. I'll say it again. Look what Golden State did in 2016. They had Draymond Green playing center for a bit there, and they had success when Draymond Green was the center.
But they'd still.
And they kind of have that same lineup. PJ Tucker, I think, is kind of similar. He's similar in size, similar in shooting ability as Draymond. And you got Robert Covington on the outside, spot up 3-point shooter. Eric Gordon on the outside, spot up 3-point shooter. James Harden and Russell Westbrook, very good duo in the NBA, probably top 5 in my opinion. And you pair it, Steph and Clay, I'd say they're slightly above them, but they're up there with Steph and Clay. So when you look at it, now I could see the Rockets making a run. Remember, James Harden, the last time he played with a star on his team, he took the Rockets to Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors. Game 7 against the Golden State Warriors, and would have won that game if it weren't for the fact that they bricked every shot and missed every single 3-point shot that game. Like, he just the Rockets missed every shot that game. So I don't know. I'm kind of worried about them. I'm not worried about them. I think they will have good success, and Russell Westbrook will change the Rockets' fortunes, because with a second star, James Harden will do well, especially if Russell Westbrook is healthy down the stretch in the playoffs. That second star will be amazing for James Harden, and they will have a chance to win the West. I'd give them the third best odds behind the Clippers and Lakers.
No, absolutely not. But we have to see come playoff time.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're still far away. As you know, even though it's 8 games, we're still far away from the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. Well, great episode. We actually have stuff to talk about, which I'm still super psyched out about. This is awesome. We're back. The NBA is back.
Back in action.
Let's go. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Break down more games for you next episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to subscribe. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Put the link in the description for that. Thank you guys so much for watching again. Have a good one. Stay safe.